the mirror that is haunted by a killer demon that hunts anyone who looks into it. The film begins by showing a security guard named Gary Lewis running in panic toward an underground station, his face filled with fear and his movements making it clear that he is trying to escape from something unseen. In a state of terror, Gary searches for a place to hide until he finally enters an empty room that contains nothing but a large mirror. Instead of feeling safe, he stands in front of it and begs his own reflection for mercy, as if it has control over his life and death. The tension builds as the mirror suddenly begins to crack on its own and eventually shatters without being touched. From within the reflection, Gary's image starts moving out of sync with his real body, picks up a shard of glass, and performs an action that leads to Gary's death in the real world. The story then shifts to Ben, a former police detective whose life has fallen apart due to his alcoholism. In the past, while drunk and not fully aware of his actions, Ben accidentally shot a fellow officer, an incident that immediately ended his career. Since then, his life has become a mess. His wife, Amy, can no longer tolerate his behavior and demands that he stop drinking if he wants to fix his life, even going as far as forbidding him from seeing their children, Michael and Daisy, until he truly changes. Realizing his mistakes and having lost almost everything, Ben agrees to go through therapy to overcome his addiction, even though it means being separated from his family for a while.
I'm doing everything I can to get back on my feet again. I needed time. I needed you. You don't think people can change?
During his recovery, Ben stays at his sister Angela's apartment where she patiently supports his efforts to change. His days are filled with therapy and attempts to rebuild his life, but finding a new job proves to be difficult as he keeps getting rejected. Eventually, he gets a chance to work as a night guard at an old building called Mayflower, which was once a luxurious place but was destroyed by a massive fire that left most of it in ruins. A man named Lorenzo explains that the building still contains many mirrors, so Ben is required to patrol every 3 hours to make sure everything remains safe.
Anyway, you'll see. Too much going on. Calm around here. No electricity, all these mirrors. There's a pretty big teamwork in here before the fire.
On his first day, Ben shows determination to change by staying away from alcohol completely as he begins patrolling the dark and silent building. Inside, he notices rows of mirrors standing among the damaged structure, and when he examines one of them closely, he sees a clear handprint on its surface that he cannot wipe away no matter how hard he tries. From the mirror's reflection, Ben sees a door behind him slowly opening on its own, but when he turns around, the door is still firmly closed. From that moment on, strange occurrences continue to follow him, all connected to the mirrors, making him feel as if something is watching him from within them. He even sees his own reflection distort into something horrifying, and witnesses a burned figure appearing in the mirror without any presence in the real world. Although everything feels real, Ben tries to calm himself by believing that it is all just hallucinations, possibly caused by his withdrawal from alcohol. One night, he finds a wallet inside the building, and after checking it, he realizes that it belongs to Gary Lewis, the previous guard who died mysteriously at the beginning of the story. Inside the wallet, he finds a note with the word Essaker written on it. After finishing his shift, Ben visits the bar where Angela works and tells her about everything he has been experiencing over the past few days, admitting that he keeps seeing things that make no sense while still trying to convince himself that it is all a side effect of his recovery.
It was like a nightmare, but I was awake. I know I was awake.
What are you talking about?
The fucking mirrors, they are everywhere.
You've been having those nightmares since the shooting? I think you're just going through a hard time in your life.
Meanwhile, at Amy's house, strange events begin to spread to the family as Michael starts experiencing disturbances involving the mirror, showing that the terror is no longer limited to Ben, but is now affecting those around him as well. The next morning, Ben is shocked to receive a mysterious package sent under Gary Lewis's name. Driven by curiosity, he opens it and finds a stack of old newspapers, all reporting on the massive fire that once destroyed the Mayflower building, a tragedy that killed many people and left behind unresolved mysteries. This discovery makes Ben even more certain that the strange events he has been experiencing are not a coincidence. When he returns to work, Lorenzo informs him that Gary, the previous guard, was found dead in a horrifying condition, strengthening Ben's suspicion that Gary's death is connected to the strange occurrences inside the building. Since Amy works at a hospital, Ben goes to see her with the intention of viewing Gary's body. After some persuasion, Amy finally allows him into the morgue, where Ben clearly sees that Gary died from a severe neck wound that appears to have been caused by a shard of glass.
I need to see his file. I need his file.
Before leaving, Ben asks Amy to access all the case files related to Gary, then explains that ever since he started working at Mayflower, he has been seeing unexplainable things through the mirrors. However, Amy refuses to believe him and assumes he is simply experiencing withdrawal effects from alcohol. Even so, after Ben insists, Amy eventually shows him Gary's files. Using his experience as a former detective, Ben quickly notices something odd in the crime scene photos. The shard of glass involved shows no trace of blood, which should not be the case if the wound had been self-inflicted. Despite his reasoning, Amy still does not believe him and continues to think he is hallucinating, leaving Ben frustrated as he walks away.
Look at the piece of mirror that Gary Lewis is holding. In reality, it's perfectly clean. What if the mirrors can actually make us do things that we don't want to do? What are you talking about? Just listen to me.
I don't have time for this. What's wrong with you?
Amy, I'm seeing things in the mirrors at work.
Around the same time, another tragedy occurs when Angela, Ben's sister, experiences something terrifying in her own apartment and ultimately loses her life in a tragic way. Her screams alert the neighbors, who immediately call the police. Not long after, Ben arrives and finds the apartment crowded with people, and as he steps inside, he is faced with the devastating sight of Angela's lifeless body. Overwhelmed with guilt, Ben feels responsible, believing that everything happening is connected to him and the Mayflower building. From that moment on, he becomes determined to handle everything on his own without involving his family any further. With that resolve, Ben returns to Mayflower and tries to destroy all the mirrors, hoping it will end the terror. But his efforts fail, as every mirror he damages restores itself as if nothing happened. In desperation, he begins questioning what the mirrors actually want, until words slowly appear on one of them, forming the name Esseker, the same word he found in Gary's wallet. Realizing this is the key, Ben starts digging deeper and asks Larry, a police officer, to search for the name Esseker in New York, but no relevant records are found. Instead, Ben comes across the name Terrence through old newspaper archives, even though Terrence is already dead. Refusing to give up, Ben asks Larry to trace Terrence's history before his death, which eventually leads them to a mental hospital. There, a doctor shows them an old recording of Terrence, in which he claims he was being haunted by something coming from mirrors and that it was responsible for the deaths of his wife and children. Hearing this, Ben becomes convinced that the same threat is now targeting his own family. Without wasting time, he rushes to Amy's house to protect them, and upon arriving, he immediately removes every mirror he can and paints over those that cannot be moved, hoping to stop whatever is behind them.
Sweetheart, just give me a second.
His strange behavior alarms Amy's housemaid, who quickly calls Amy at work, prompting her to rush home and find Ben acting in a way she believes is completely unstable. She assumes he is mentally affected by quitting alcohol, while Ben desperately tries to convince her that the reflections in mirrors can harm people. When she still refuses to believe him, Ben attempts to prove it by shooting a mirror, claiming it will restore itself. But after waiting, nothing happens, making Amy even more certain that something is wrong with him. Feeling completely alone and not believed by anyone, Ben leaves the house, and on his way, he nearly gets into an accident when he sees Angela's reflection suddenly appear in his car's rearview mirror. Ben then returns to the Mayflower building, determined to find answers to everything that has been haunting him. While exploring areas he has never entered before, he discovers a hidden access leading to an underground level. There, he realizes that the building has a much darker past than he imagined, as it was once a mental hospital called St. Matthew's. This discovery strengthens his belief that all the terror he has been experiencing is connected to the building's history. As he continues searching, Ben finds a secret room surrounded entirely by mirrors, which convinces him that he is getting closer to the truth. He immediately contacts Larry and asks him to look for records of patients and staff from St. Matthew's, suspecting that the name Esseker must be linked to the past of the place. Larry explains that the hospital has been closed for over 50 years, but if it was officially operating back then, the records should still exist in the police archives. Without wasting time, Larry secretly retrieves the files and brings them to Ben. A few hours later, he finds important documents, including the file of a patient named Anna Esseker, and reveals that aside from the fire, there was also a mass killing at the hospital that claimed the lives of many patients and staff. As Ben studies the files more carefully, he notices inconsistencies in Anna's records that do not match the timeline of the tragedy, leading him to realize that Anna had already left the hospital before the incident occurred, which means she is likely still alive. This suspicion becomes even stronger when Ben shows Anna's photo to one of the mirrors, and the reflection seems to indicate that she is somewhere outside New York. Without hesitation, Ben decides to go and find her. Meanwhile, at Amy's house, another strange incident occurs when Amy sees Michael talking to a mirror, and after he leaves, she notices that his reflection was not moving in sync with him. That moment finally convinces Amy that everything Ben said is real, and she immediately calls him and asks him to come home.
You have to come to the house right now.
Amy. Amy, what's wrong?
Ben returns, and together they try to protect the family by covering all the mirrors in the house with paint and blocking the windows with newspapers to eliminate any reflections. After everything is done, Amy apologizes for not believing him, while Ben also feels guilty for bringing danger into their lives, and he warns her to always stay close to the children and never let them be separated. Knowing that the only way to stop everything is to find Anna, Ben asks for Amy's permission to leave and track her down. After a long journey, Ben arrives at the Esseker family home, where he learns about Anna's past.
Sir?
Anna Esseker.
Grandpa's a man here is asking about his sister.
Since childhood, Anna was known to be difficult to control and often showed violent behavior, forcing her family to lock her away to prevent harm. Her condition eventually caught the attention of a doctor named Kane, who took her to St. Matthew's for treatment. After being examined, Anna was diagnosed with a mental disorder and placed in a special therapy that involved isolating her in a room full of mirrors for several days. After undergoing the treatment, her behavior suddenly changed, and she was declared cured. But from that point on, strange events involving mirrors began to occur both in the hospital and beyond. Anna's brother explains that even after she returned home, the disturbances continued through the mirrors in their house, which led the family to send her to a monastery called St. Augustine, a place completely free of mirrors, in hopes of keeping her safe. Ben then continues his journey to the monastery, and after a long and exhausting trip, he finally meets Anna.
I've come to speak with a member of your community, Anna Essiker. It's very important, please. Please, Miss Essiker, if you don't help me, my family's in danger. The building that used to be St. Matthew's Hospital.
He tries to convince her to return to the hospital so they can stop the terror, but she refuses because she is terrified of what exists within the mirrors. During their conversation, Anna reveals the truth that what she experienced as a child was not just a mental illness, but that she had been possessed by a powerful entity. When she was placed in the mirror-filled room during therapy, the entity left her body and became trapped within the mirrors instead. From that moment on, Anna was no longer affected, but the terror spread through the mirrors in the hospital, leading to chaos, killings, and the fire. Even after returning home, the entity continued to follow her through mirrors, which is why her family ultimately sent her somewhere completely free of them. Anna insists that she does not want to return because she fears the entity could reach her again, but Ben, having no other choice and believing his family is in danger, begs her to help. When she still refuses, Ben is forced to take a desperate step and points a gun at her, making her go with him because he believes she is the only one who can stop the terror coming from the mirrors. In the end, Anna is forced to return to St. Matthew's with Ben, even though the fear is still clearly visible in her. At the same time, at Amy's house, the situation turns even more tense when Amy wakes up and realizes that Michael is no longer beside her. Panic begins to set in as she opens the door and finds the entire house flooded, creating reflections in almost every corner. This makes the threat even more dangerous, as reflections can now appear anywhere. Amy quickly secures Daisy in a room without mirrors, then desperately tries to find Michael.
Michael? Michael?
But before she can reach him, the entity pulls him into the water's reflection, as if dragging him away from the real world. Meanwhile, when Ben and Anna arrive at the building, the atmosphere feels even more unnatural, as if Anna's presence has been anticipated all along. As they enter the mirror-filled room, Anna becomes the center of everything happening there, and with all the strength she has, she tries to confront the force hiding within the mirrors and stop it from hurting anyone else.
Let's go, Cal. Thank you.
The tension reaches its peak when all the mirrors inside Mayflower suddenly shatter at once. At that same moment, back at Amy's house, Michael reappears, finally freed from the entity's influence, and Amy, Michael, and Daisy embrace each other in relief, grateful that they are still together. However, things do not end as well inside the building, as the entity that was trapped within the mirrors begins to manifest by taking over Anna's body. Seeing this, Ben has no choice but to face Anna, who is no longer herself. The confrontation ends with Ben managing to stop her, but it triggers massive destruction that causes the building to collapse. The falling debris buries Ben beneath the ruins, leaving him trapped inside the destroyed structure. After some time, Ben regains consciousness and manages to crawl out from under the rubble, trying to escape the building, but something feels wrong as no one comes to help him. As he looks around, he notices that everything appears reversed, as if he is seeing the world from the other side. When he tries to check his reflection, he realizes that it does not appear at all, and in that moment, Ben understands that he is now trapped inside the mirror world. Meanwhile, in the real world, a final sign appears as Ben's handprint slowly forms on the surface of a mirror, proving that he still exists, but no longer in the same world as the people he loves, and the story comes to an end.